Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we talked about this already, but we had card bans in the early access Tavern brawl, where strategies were so dominant from the older sets, such as, you know, the Rogue quest, the Warlock quest, were so good that they were banned so the newer stuff could breathe. That also included Elise. However, on November 4th, tomorrow, when the Across the Timeways expansion launches, these cards will not be banned, and I am pretty concerned. I'm cautiously optimistic at the same time, though, that the next set might not land super well, which is a pattern we've seen. It goes all the way back. We saw Showdown of the Badlands with the starships, took a little bit to get going. Didn't really go crazy until that Baroque and StarCraft mini set. And then we saw the Ungoro set. We saw the Emerald Dream set. Both of them didn't land, and I have a lot of worries to have that, yes, we might be in for a similar thing, at least until that next patch that could possibly save Hearthstone. So we'll talk about all this, and as always, today is actually the last day to enter our giveaway for 3 rewards tracks out of my pocket. To enter the giveaway, like and comment in the video, link down description below, the one with that thumbnail over there. Be subscribed to the channel. If we manage to hit another 1,000 subs by tomorrow, I'll add another rewards track, so hit that sub button, make me go broke. So yeah, I just wanted to use this as like a visual indicator of like how good the older stuff has been. But I want to, the cautiously optimistic part of me is that a lot of it is banned because most people don't have the new cards. And myself, I was easily able to get 6 wins with every single class with all new strategies from this upcoming expansion. Does that mean anything? Not really, especially considering the oldest stuff like, you know, Perils in Paradise and Whizbang, they were all banned. And this stuff here, besides Elise and the Warlock quest, is really struggling against all the old stuff. And if we look at HS Replay, go to the meta, these are the decks that are dominating right now and have been dominating for basically months with the odd exception, with Aggro Demon Hunter, at least at Diamond through Legend, doing really well. Beast Hunter has been doing really well for a while. It got some new stuff in the last set, but it's not that new a deck, right? Cliff Dive Demon Hunter is back up there. The elephant in the room, of course, so is Quest Warlock, which was definitely, in my opinion, I said it at the time, I was really worried it was overbuffed, because if that thing's really good, there's no way to interact with that location, right? Or not location, the dormant thing that summons the Fell Beast, and once that gets online, it's really hard to kill them. They have infinite damage, lifesteal, taunt, and it's going to be really hard there's nothing like that in the set to compete with it, and I'm kind of worried the only things that will are just going to be scams like Druid, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, you see Aggro Paladin, we did get that Bandage Priest, the Wilted Shadow thing emerge, which has already been nerfed once. Leech DK, which has been prolific since Showdown, like leeches have been nerfed and all that. It's super good with all the Starship, well, not even the Starship, the Narrowlax, Fire-Ack, and Ysera combo, which again, that's not going anywhere, which again, we'll talk about. And we got Fire-Ack, Rogue, Shopper. You see that there's like barely any strategies here that have emerged in the past basically year, right? The last 2 sets. We got Protoss Priest still up there. And if we look at the popularity in the Hearthstone meta itself, Quest Warlock at Legend makes up nearly 10% of the meta. Fire-Ack Rogue makes up nearly 10% of the meta. And then Leech DK, which also is like Fire-Ack DK, makes up nearly 10% of the meta, with the other decks being up there: Protoss Priest, Egg Warlock, Starship Demon Hunter, and then you got Quest Mage, which is actually not that great. People just like playing it. I got Legend last season myself with it on an 11x bonus, so that's out there. Yeah, and then like Starship DK, Protoss Mage, and of course everybody's favorite Quest Paladin, which falls off super hard at Legend, right? 2%, but at its highest, I believe it's a like bronze or bronze 10 or 9. It's like 12%, 12%. It just bullies, you know, more of the noobish decks, because it just punishes them by just swarming with Murlocs. But regardless, you can see that the play rate's not super high, and that's one of the newer strategies. You almost want it to be good. So again, none of these sets have landed that well. And in comparison, they banned all these quests so that, you know, this new set, at least in the Brawl, could do well. Although, again, how much is it just people don't have the cards? It's really hard to tell. In my opinion, it's people don't have the cards. Because, again, from my experience, I did really well, especially with Druid, which I may or may not have a video on later today because I've just been farming Brawl with. It's so freaking good. That's kind of concerning, right? That the stuff that can't compete was banned. And yeah, we're going to have an expansion launch, which doesn't look, you know, insane, right? It doesn't look on paper to be crazy. The biggest thing that stands out, which I think has a great chance of landing, are the Fabled cards. Not all of them. I think Talanji might be a little bit slow. Broxigar very easily could enable an OTK deck. We saw that in the Brawl. Lady Ajar is guaranteed to see play. She is insane just for this location, the one right there that copies a minion. Whether it's just Alonius Druid Fuel or not, she's nuts. She's going to see play. Same with Sylvanas. Maybe the Dragon stuff makes an OTK deck. Gelbin is really good, but it's really slow. Medivh really good, but it's really slow. Garona can scam. Possibly sees play. Murden is just a broken card. It is nuts. It will see play. And then Rafam's going to see play whether it's good or not because people love it. But yeah, I see the Fabled cards coming in. The standouts to me that might have a really good shot to seeing play too are like the Dios card, especially with like Sandbox Scoundrel out the gate could be just bonkers, which again kind of goes into a pre-existing deck and you're just throwing Dios in there. That's not super exciting. Or Spirit Peddler enabling a whole different strategy, different style of deck with a ton of mana cheat for Demon Hunter, but I feel like that's something people won't like or are going to be angry about. And then the other thing that really stood out is just the Druid Legendary, the mass mana cheat, the other scam. It reminds me of Low, which was insane out the gate last expansion too, and got nerfed immediately. But the actual like cohesive strategies are pushing this set. Not a ton of them I have a faith in to compete against the existing archetypes, which has been the problem the entire year, where like we saw, it's been starships, it's been, you know, the miniature perils and paradise stuff. It's been a lot, or sorry, the miniature whiz-bang stuff, and then like all the touristy stuff really dominating. Those cards are still by far the most dominant, when the other two sets just sprinkling in, right? Like Elise is the most dominant card from the latest set, and when we look at like card popularity, it really shows. Elise is in 44% of decks, but does she really represent a deck strategy or like what an expansion's about? No, she's just a really ridiculously powerful neutral legendary that slots into a ton of decks, like Ziliax, which has been nerfed what, 7 times and is still in 46% of decks, and Xavius, Ysera, a lot of these cards in our like a quarter of decks, and I don't see any of that changing. And we even looked at the neutral legendaries for the upcoming set, and outside of Dios, nothing looks crazy. And there's a good chance that, yeah, day one, a lot of these dominant strategies that are doing really well right now aren't going to fall off much, and a couple of these decks might spice that up and add a couple new things. We might get a new scam deck or two, but overall, the things people are excited about, I don't know if it's going to work. And I think this is a consequence of basically having no real balance patch, like significant, for 2 months, which we talked about before. We haven't seen in ages, where a card like Elise would likely be modified at some point. Fyrakk or the whole Narrowlax combo would have been nerfed to some degree if it's in this many decks and is kind of warping the meta so much. You could say the Starship stuff like Arcanite Defense Crystal, you could say Ancient of Yore. There are a ton of cards. Sandbox Scoundrel, right? And of course the Warlock quest. These are all things you could have argued should have been adjusted, whether majorly or minorly, over a 2-month period, but instead we got nothing. And it's led to basically the same meta for 2 months, with Egg of Kelos buff thrown in to spice things up a little bit, where we got Egg Warlock, which plays like a quest deck. It is very repetitive, but at least it was something new. It is still something new. But yeah, launch date tomorrow. I would just say keep your expectations in check. There might be a good chance a lot of this stuff doesn't land right away. I will say almost every single strategy outside of what, Quest Warlock are rotating, and a lot of key cards are rotating from that deck in particular. And it does seem to be a strategy, possibly, that they're weighing of. It's a rotation waiting room, right? Like, they want to kind of lower power level, which they said back in Showdown of the Badlands, and they're doing it through, you know, 3 kind of whatever power level sets. And then when rotation occurs, we'll have the most impactful rotation of all time, because that's what it's looking like, right? It is looking like we will have the most impactful rotation ever. It's not even close. I've had people say, well, of course you're going to say, you know, Hearthstone will be saved by this. I'm not saying it'll be good. You never know. It could totally suck. But by impact, I mean, it's going to be completely different. Yeah, I really think so. More so than any other rotation we've ever seen, where we had the whiz-bang rotation last year where the power level actually went up. It was really weird. And I think that set alarm bells off for them that something had to change. And now, almost 2 years later, yeah, we're kind of feeling that, right? Because these things take a long time to plan out and have happen. That whiz-bang launch in particular was a huge eye-opener, that if we're having a rotation and the power level seemingly is going up with that, and it was just kind of insane, that something kind of needs to be dialed back, or else what are we doing if we're all blowing up so freaking fast? So yeah, kind of my worries out there. It might be a necessary evil. I don't know. We're going to see how it plays out, but just wanted to throw that out there, and also would love to hear your guys' takes on everything, because it's really a complicated thing. It could go so many different ways, and depending on how you look at it, you might even be happy about it. Yeah, I just don't know. I have no idea. So let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.